Welcome back to The Next Woman Up, episode 8 already, Melissa. This is a Winsidr podcast. I'm Mike Waterloo, joined by my co-host, Melissa Treebwasser. And Melissa, I am pouring one out right here because we are about 90 minutes removed on a Sunday night for once. So we are recording on a Sunday night, which is fantastic, from your TCU Horned Frogs losing to Texas Tech in Lubbock, Texas. I need to know, Melissa, how's everything going?
You know, I'm hanging in there. I will say, yes, I love that it worked out for us to record a little bit later on a Sunday because, man, did we get treated to some awesome basketball today, including that TCU Texas Tech game, even though the result wasn't obviously what I would like it to be. It's good for TCU if the Big 12 conference is strong, and it's fun to see that Texas Tech team kind of the leap that they've taken. And I mean, they've got their, a coach who played at Texas Tech, who won a natty at Texas Tech. I mean, it's pretty cool to see that program kind of matching the enthusiasm. Like we talked with Indiana, to see the rising tide lift all boats. And now, Tech women's basketball, Tech men's basketball, softball, and football all having success. Tough loss, but the Red Raiders are for real, man. The Lady Raiders are for real. So I don't think that's going to be a loss that hurts them. But as we start to get into February now, and we'll start talking about our Sweet 16 seeds next week to tease that a little bit. Horned Frogs are going to be right on that bubble if they can't string together a couple of big wins with a tough schedule down the stretch.
They absolutely will. And as you mentioned, February is a great reminder that it is Black History Month. We want to wish everybody out there a happy Black History Month and get ice out of Minnesota. That'll be the last we speak about that on here. But was really, really on my shoulders for the past few weeks. So needed to use our platform in that way. Shout out to Aaliyah Scott, who taught us that is okay to do. And it is February. We're about a month away from Selection Sunday. You teased it a little bit. We're going to be talking about it next week with USA Today's own Megan Hall, a friend of the podcast, a friend of the program, a friend of the website, and just a friend in life.
Yeah.
So we are very excited to have her on the show. And this week, Melissa, we have a really big guest on our show also.
Yeah.
And, I watched right before halftime, she hit a dagger three, which has become just her staple. And that is none other than Gianna Kneepkens from the UCLA Bruins is going to be joining the program on the back half of this episode. Melissa, it was a fantastic conversation with Gianna.
Yeah, it was awesome to get to talk to Gianna and to get to talk to her and then watch her just absolutely ball out today. Maybe we're the good luck charm for some of these teams. We had a couple, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but a couple of our other guests had pretty big day today here, Shay and our future guest as well. So it's awesome to watch her play. It was really great getting to know her. And like we keep saying, the best part of getting to do this is getting to talk to these young women and see them kind of get to know them a little bit off the court and then watch them perform at a high level on the court. So she was a great interview, and I think y'all really enjoy that one.
Yeah, you definitely will. You enjoy that surprise guest we have next week too. We'll be teasing that because it is going to be a 2-guest show next week with Megan Hall and said person, but we'll leave that for a bit. But
yeah, I'm gonna have to blow it here a little bit later in the show, but so we'll get to that though.
We will, but until then, you talked about it was a huge day of games. We have a lot to go over, a big week in general besides just Saturday or Sunday's slate. But Melissa, let's start with you. We're each going to do a few takeaways from just this past week. So I'm going to throw it over to you. What stood out to you first?
Yeah, I did this to Texas a couple of weeks ago, and we saw what happened after that. They kind of fell off that number 1 seed and dropped a couple of games. But I think that watching, first of all, shout out to Tennessee and UConn for scheduling marquee ranked on ranked matchup between probably the two historically best programs in the entire sport, the two of the most meaningful programs in women's sports in general, and playing that game in the midst of their conference seasons. And, I think for UConn, they haven't really been tested much in the last month or so. There's not a lot of teams in the Big East that can really push them. And so getting out against that Tennessee team, watching both of those teams, the way they play defense for 94 feet, the way that they trap and push tempo and just really get up in your grill. I think the first half was so much fun. The second quarter, Tennessee really looked good. But man, UConn in that third just steamrolled the Volunteers. God bless them. They were trying, but I think it was a great reminder that UConn is the number 1 team in the country for a reason. despite the fact that they're not going to play the grind of an SEC or a Big Ten or even a Big 12 schedule this year, that they still know how to turn it on for big games, and they can still go up against elite competition and make them look not very elite. And we're gonna get to our big board here in a minute, and I've really been vacillating on my number one overall pick, keeping it very much in mind with who the Wings are going to want or need. And man, AZ Fudd, maybe it's recency bias, but watching her play both ends of the floor, seeing her handle, seeing her play make, she scored the first 7 points for UConn. She is unquestionably the best player on American soil right now. The question is she the best number one possible pick in the world? And I'm leaning towards maybe making a change here on my big board. I was just so impressed with what she did with that stage and against that level of competition.
Yeah, we both right now have Alba Fam number one. So when we get to that segment, I'm interested to see once you process everything, if you decide to make that little swap
Yeah.
there. And yeah, thank God they scheduled that game because, you know, it does UConn a disservice that the teams that they're playing constantly is Providence, Butler, DePaul, Creighton, St. John's.
Yeah. Good programs, but
Absolutely, but not
not,
on the level of the Power
yeah.
Four conferences that we see. So whenever they come out, they're like, we need to remind you who the hell we are. And especially after Tennessee crawled back, they went on
Yeah.
that, I think it was 13-2 run led by Z Spearman. It was a great, great game, but that just shows you, even when Paige Beckers was asked the other day, which team's better, this year's UConn or last year's UConn? Paige, like, selfishly, I'm going to say last year's, but man, this team right now,
Yeah.
this year, on another level.
Yeah.
Kaylee Heckle coming off the bench,
Yeah.
just kind of
Just Kaylee
torching.
Heckle coming off
Yeah.
the bench, first of all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just unreal and it's totally unfair. They played so well. Can't wait to see what UConn does going forward. Their next biggest game they have before the end of the year is Villanova, if you're a
Yeah.
Villanova fan, and that kind of tells you the state of the
Yeah.
Big East. But we know they're going to be a locked in number one seed no matter what going forward. And while this team may not be a number one seed, it was the number one game of the day for me and probably the week, and that was Michigan State.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
I had it so to break the fourth wall a little bit. My setup here is I have a big screen TV, I have a medium sized TV, I have a little size TV, all just mounted on my wall, and then I break out the iPads on Sundays because it just demands it. For most of the day in the morning, it was UConn and Tennessee on the big screen, and I had Michigan State on the smaller screen up top. I flipped those at halftime.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, I know that Tennessee came back, but this Michigan State game deserves most of my attention right here. And I'm so glad I did. The game went into overtime. It was a fantastic
It's
showing.
close. Michigan
This,
State was
oh my
that
gosh,
ball was halfway down to from a half court to getting Michigan State the win.
it
And then
was
Michigan, man, reminded us again that they're
who
Michigan
they
for a
are.
reason. Yeah.
That fantastic trio of sophomores that they have. Of course, Olivia Olson balled out. Swallow the Swords wasn't her best game, but that's okay. But Mila Holloway, career
Yeah.
game, 26 points for her. She was on another level, as was Jalen Brown over there with Michigan State, with Kennedy Blair
Yeah.
coming up very, very big in that fourth quarter. Like you said, it went into overtime. Michigan kind of ran away with it. That was going to be the game of the year, and that was going to be an ESPYS moment of the year.
Yeah.
It reminded me of going back in what, maybe 2008, nine, Gordon Hayward,
But
Butler,
yeah,
half
I was
court
thinking,
shot.
yep, against
Yep.
Duke, right? Or no,
Against
yeah,
Duke.
Duke,
Yeah,
yeah.
against Duke, but that was in a championship game.
Yep.
This was just a regular season game, but
Felt like
still,
a championship game,
it
right?
felt like it. It was just like whatever you're doing right now, move over from Fox Sports to Fox Sports
Yeah.
1 because this game was amazing to see. We love that Michigan team. They're so much fun. Michigan State, we don't talk about them enough, and I
Yeah.
feel like we say this every single week and we still don't talk about them enough, so we have to change that. Fantastic game by them. That was one that I was really had my eye on.
Yeah.
It lived up to the billing.
It was awesome. And, and this, like my big rant when we talk college football on my TCU podcast is we always talk about the death of regional rivalries and how realignment has taken away. Like we're going to talk about Iowa and UCLA here in a second. And it's like, that's awesome because that's a top 10 matchup. But like, who cares about Iowa and UCLA when it's not a top 10 matchup? So to
Mhm.
see Michigan and Michigan State be that high level and be that competitive. I mean, what you see on the men's side when both of those teams are ranked, how big that game is, and the history of those two teams. To see both women's programs being, playing at such a high level, recruiting at such a high level, have so many talented athletes, and that game to truly live up to the billing. We can't take those games for granted because they don't happen all the time. Especially, we're seeing a little more parity now with the portal, but for so long it's felt like such a gap between, the top teams and that next level, and it's awesome to see both of those teams kind of peaking at the right time so that you get a game like we did today. Just an awesome basketball game, great high level, just plays being made on both ends. Great environment, great fans. I freaking love it for the sport. It was great.
It really, really was. And I'm going to pass it over to you for our next one. Just want to let everybody know we said, hey, we're going to record at 6 p.m. Eastern today because we want to watch the rest of Iowa UCLA. At the end of the third quarter, I texted Melissa like, hey, this is a 20-point game. How about we just
Yep, let's
call
jump
it a
in.
little early? I'm watching just in case, 4 minutes left, and it's a 22-point game right now. As you already know, UCLA won this. Melissa, what stood out to you about that game between the Hawkeyes and the Bruins?
It was the same thing, like I think Iowa was doing a really good job of hanging around, but then UCLA just has so much depth and so much size and can do so many things well. They just wore Iowa down. I mean, Iowa still being a top 10 team when you think of all of the roster transition and the coaching transition that they've made, the injuries that they've kind of dealt with this season. They've had a lot of players banged up. Like, it's really impressive what they're able to do. That's still a really good team that functions at a really high level. UCLA is just overwhelming. Like,
Mhm.
they're just absolutely overwhelming. And now when you see like Lauren Betts is starting to look more like what we expected her, I think at the beginning of the season to look like, she's been really strong in conference play. Gianna Kneepkens is looking like she could be a 50, 40, 90 player this year. She could finally kind of close out that gap. And Charlize Ledger-Walker, I thought, was just maybe the best player on the floor overall, just from what she was doing on both ends of the floor. And I'll also say I think my favorite, like, Gianna Kneepkens is now my favorite player because we talked to her, but my favorite player on that team from a basketball standpoint is Kiki Rice.
Yes.
Holy cow. Like, I don't think that I've paid enough attention when I've watched UCLA to her because there's so much star power on that roster. But dude, she's just a hooper. She is a
Mhm.
hooper's hooper. Like, she does everything on both ends of the floor. She led the team in scoring today with 17 points. She had 6 assists. She's just a bulldog. She mixes it up in the paint. She's posting people up. She's getting rebounds. Just a really, really. Actually, she did not lead the team. I just skipped right over Angela Dugalik, probably because I didn't want to try to say her last name, who also just, like, again, where's usually just getting these bodies every single night? A different player can lead them in every single category. Just really, really deep, really talented. And same thing, they came out of the locker room. They just absolutely overwhelmed this really good Hawkeyes team. They were in their head. Hannah Stolke got in some foul trouble early, picked up an intentional foul, flagrant foul too. And I just think that though I think that UCLA just really got Iowa in a place they didn't want to be, and then just put their foot on their necks and choked the life out of them.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And it can be any of six players, any single
Yeah.
game. Not to even mention Sienna Betts, who
Yeah,
is
who was
starting to
great
find her
today.
footing. Yes,
Yeah.
like she's starting to come along. You're starting to see it. And honestly, whenever we reached out and we're like, who do we want for UCLA? And we're like, can we just get 5 players? Can we get all
Seriously.
potential five first
Yeah.
or second round picks to come on? And who knows, we may be able to down the road as we get closer to draft season. But conversation with Gianna Kneepkens was great. But for Iowa, that's 2 straight losses now,
Yeah.
USC, UCLA, and they have to face a very scrappy Minnesota team, a top
Yeah.
25 opponent coming up here in just a few days. I believe that's a Thursday game. So that's one that we're going to have to keep our eyes on. And Melissa, if I can, like you mentioned you made the Texas comment, and then they lost 2 games, and then
Reverse jinxed them. My
hopefully you
bad.
didn't reverse jinx. I want to go back and find that clip somewhere. Hey, producer, that's us. I want to find that clip where you're like, maybe Duke is going to be a bubble team because I'm not putting that on you. I'm putting it on both of us because we
Yeah.
both thought that given the start of the season. But today, that was the other game I had on TV early this morning, and they just dominated now a 13-game winning streak for
Jeez. Yeah.
Duke. This is the team we expected in the preseason. 10 of those 13 wins were by at least 14 points. And I would be absolutely terrified to face Kara Lawson's team right now or in any postseason tournament. I can't wait to see what bracketology looks like. They're obviously
Yeah.
back in the top 25 now, but how much are they going to weigh those early season loss versus the late season domination on them? What's that going to look like? Luckily, the ACC tournament is down here right outside of Atlanta, so I'm only going to be able to make the Saturday Sunday slate of games. I'm hoping that Duke is playing there because I really want to see them in action again, like we got to last year in Alabama in the Sweet 16. So that is, yeah, this Duke team is not a bubble team anymore. They are a locked in team. And going forward, I can't really see anybody slowing them down as they try to take the ACC crown, but of course that's a loaded conference too. Basketball is just so good right now. There are just so many amazing teams that are playing. So did you have a chance to watch that game against Wake Forest today? And
I did
obviously
not.
it was Wake Forest. So
Yeah, I did not get to watch a lot of Duke this morning, unfortunately. I'm a big Kara Lawson fan, like going back to like the Monarchs days, and so
mm-hmm.
I just have so much respect for how she coaches, and I think that I think it was totally fair to consider them a bubble team at that time because
Absolutely.
of how they were playing. But I mean, and every coach worth their salt will tell you it's not about how you play in November, it's not about how you play in December. It's how you're playing in February and into March, and Duke might be peaking at the right time. And like you said, that's not a teams are going to want to match up with because they're well coached, they're well schemed, they're super talented, and now they're starting to figure it out. So they're going to be a problem. As we start talking about some of these teams in the top 25 and you start looking ahead to like we're a month away. I know we're going to get to our top 16 next week, but it just gets so fascinating of what those top 16 teams are going to be. There's going to be a lot of conversation between 12 and 20, I think. Like
Absolutely.
it is going to be an absolute like just an absolute like bloodfest trying to figure out, teams, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, when you're going to have probably 10 teams in contention for those final 4 to 6 spots. So one of those teams that's looking like they're trying to make a move to get in contention for that spot is Texas Tech. And we talked about it earlier. Beat my Horned Frogs. I am a huge fan of Bailey Maupin. I think it's cool that we're going to talk about this later too. I have no problem with player movement, but it is really cool when a player like that stays for all 4 years in a program that did not have success, and then as a senior gets to achieve like what she's getting the spotlight, she's getting the opportunity, she's getting the attention that she's deserved her entire career. And it's really fun to see that team playing so well. I wish they wouldn't do it against teams that I cover and root for. But when you look at the top of the Big 12 conference right now, I mean, there are 5 teams that have 3 or fewer losses. Everybody has at least 2 losses at this point, which is absolutely wild in this conference. And because of the imbalanced schedule, like getting that 1 seed and winning the regular season championship is going to be it's going to be a battle. So I think it's going to come down to last weekend of the season. Texas Tech and TCU don't play again this year, which is weird. So they don't get the return trip. TCU still has not played Baylor. They will play them twice in the final 2 weeks of the season, which is going to be pretty crazy. West Virginia comes to town for the Horned Frogs too, and then Oklahoma State is still kind of hanging around. So and Iowa State's starting to get it together too. Like they may have too many losses to be out of the race, but when you look at what those teams like, how that's going to come down, it's going to be interesting to see. So I think Krista Gerlich is doing an awesome job with that team. She's got some real talent. They've got a legit starting 6
Mhm.
talent wise that I think can really give teams some problems. They definitely look like a tournament team. They look like they could be a single digit seed in the tournament, and I would not want to face Texas Tech in the round of 32. Like that's going to be a team that goes on the road and tries to play spoiler, I have a feeling. And when they get hot and the way they play defense, they can definitely cause some teams some problems.
And they have a pretty easy schedule, all things considered, moving
Yeah.
forward. No top 25 teams currently on their schedule. Oklahoma State may creep in there, but Baylor was going to maybe challenge, but they fell to West Virginia on Sunday.
Yeah.
So who knows? Colorado, Kansas, Arizona State, Houston, not really too worried about
No.
2 games against Kansas. That is a treat for
Kansas is
Texas Tech.
tough. Yeah.
They,
Kansas
they,
is tough,
they
but yeah.
yeah, 2 games against them. You hate to see that going forward if you are a fan of Texas Tech because it's hard to beat a team twice this
Yeah.
late in the season. So that could be where they slip up, but they're in the driver's seat For sure, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Hopefully, better for them than has gone for Maryland as of late, because their woes have continued. You can call us a reverse jinx, that's fine, but you can also look at the Winsidr show, who just had Yarden Garzone on as a guest with Aryeh Schwartz. Go ahead and check that out. It was a fantastic interview. But Maryland's now lost four straight, loses with
Yeah.
five of their last six. It's not on Yarden, obviously. Just had to make that segue and that plug in there. But it's been a tough stretch. Losing to Ohio State, USC, UCLA, Iowa, Washington, Oregon. That's who they played over their last six games. They're going to be looking to get back on track against Michigan State in Nebraska. But, Maryland early season a few weeks ago, we were both looking at Arizona State, Maryland, Texas Tech as some of those surprise teams, even the aforementioned Nebraska. And Maryland has really just kind of fallen off. So I don't know if you got a chance to see any of those games this week. Of course, I was able to watch my Oregon Ducks take them down. But yeah, I'm kind of concerned about Maryland going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team that always feels like they're right on the edge of being really, really good. And then it feels like annually they go through this little slide, right? Where something goes wrong, they get out of their groove. They have too much talent, I think, to not be a factor in March. But as things are going right now, they're not putting themselves in a good position to make a good run in the tournament. And I think, again, like we've kind of touched on, like there's so much parity right now in the sport. There's so many good teams. You do not want to be a power four team with a double digit seed, because
Yep.
you are going to get rocked by somebody pretty early, if you don't get things figured out. I think that the top 20 this year is so solid. Though if you're not, if you're one of those double digit seeds, you have to go on the road for a Sweet 16 site. You're going to have a long hard weekend, and it's going to be tough to get out of there.
Some of those teams you might face are some mid-majors. So, Melissa, what do you say that we hop on over to
Yeah.
our second segment, our mid-major major action? And I'm going to go to the Treasure State or Big Sky Country, whatever you want to call it. We don't really pay attention to them for basketball purposes, but we're going to this week, damn it. And that is out to Montana and poor Portland State.
Yeah.
I'm going to highlight two
West
different
Coast,
players.
baby.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think of Julius Thomas when I think of like Portland State. I believe that's where he played football or basketball and then went on to become a tight end for the Broncos or something like that. That's the only connection I have there besides living in Oregon for a
One
little
of
bit.
one of my AAU players played at Portland State, so
Oh,
I
really?
got, yeah. So I've been a Pilots fan, way back in the day.
Well, tell them to tune out for this segment then, because we're going to talk about two players just absolutely destroying Portland State in back-to-back games. First, we're going to look at Avery Waddington from Montana. Montana's really had a season to forget, but Avery wasn't going to allow the other player just to have all the attention this week in our mid-major major action segment, because she went for 31 points on 13 of 20 shooting with 10 rebounds. And next, we're going to go to Montana State, and that is Taylor Sherrick. I hope I said that name correctly. I did look it up. 31 points on 12 of 16 shooting. But Melissa, get this. 12 rebounds, 11 steals. She had a triple
Jesus.
double with steals.
Feels.
Yeah, she said, "Hey, I'm going to do my Hannah Hidalgo impression out here against Portland State." Sherrick is having a breakout season as a sophomore. She's somebody I'm really keeping my eye on during the transfer portal season to see if she's going to try to leave Montana State, if she's going to kind of do what Maggie Dugan has done at Richmond and just kind of say, "No, hey, this is my place. I'm going to keep on riding it out here." But yeah, shout out to the state of Montana and Portland State. I am so sorry. Stay weird. Keep staying weird, Portland.
You mentioned Hannah Hidalgo, and I think back to our Duke conversation. Should we have an honorary team that's on the bubble that has no business being on the bubble, but might not be on the bubble by the time we record next team? Because that would be
Yes,
Notre Dame.
that would be Notre
For
Dame.
sure, for sure,
Yes.
right now, Notre Dame. I mean, that's a whole separate segment. We can talk about what the heck is going on in
We're
South
gonna
Bend,
have some bubble
Indiana.
talk. We're gonna have bubble talk coming up here as we get closer and
Yeah.
closer to the end of the
We'll
season.
try to reverse jinx a couple teams on our way down the stretch, see if we can turn them on. But before we do that, I want to talk about a team that's not a bubble team. I think a team that has a chance to make some noise in March Madness if they are able to earn themselves a bid, and that's Ball State. I don't think I've heard anybody mention the words Ball State women's basketball anywhere in the populace, maybe ever. But the Cardinals are balling out, to have a really bad pun. And the reason is that they have two of the best players nobody's talking about in the sport right now. And that's Tessa Towers at center and Bree, I don't want to butcher this, Selen Bien. And both they played Kent State, the Kent State Golden Flashes, okay? The final score of that game on Sunday was 101-91. You want to
Whew.
talk about a couple of teams absolutely getting after it. Um, that's what was happening here in this. I think this game was at Kent State. I'm not entirely sure. Tessa Towers goes for 29 points and 11 rebounds, couple of assists. Bree goes for 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists, double double. They had a third player score 22 points, and Grace Kingery, I think she's a freshman too. She goes for 22 points. But Salambien and Towers have just consistently been really, really good players for a Ball State team that's currently 17 and 5. They've got a shot to make some noise in the tournament if they can get in, right? Like that's probably a one bid league, unfortunately. Maybe Mid American could potentially be a two bid league. Who knows? But they're chasing Miami of Ohio right now in conference play. They're probably going to have to win the conference tournament and get that auto bid to get in. But if they do and they get that opportunity, they are going to be must see TV. That is going to be a team that's really, really fun to watch. They're probably going to give somebody a pretty good scare. So shout out to Ball State and what they're doing over there in the MAC. I really hope we get a chance to see them in March Madness.
Same here. They are 9-1 in conference. The only loss came to the aforementioned Miami of Ohio, but there's a rematch coming up in just a couple of weeks that I want to keep our eye on, and it is Bree Sallandine. She did come over from Gonzaga.
Sallenbein.
There,
Okay.
yeah, just like fine. She's just doing fine. They're doing fine. Sallandine.
Got it.
But yeah, they are doing very well in the MAC. That pace they're playing with at 76.2, that is 92nd percentile in all of Division One. Thank you so much, and shout out her hoop stats for the quick numbers. Ball State, though, like you said, nobody's been paying them attention. I really want to start watching them too because they're a team we want to
Fun.
check out. They are
Yeah.
fun. They are.
Fun.
It's just like Maction, like you talk about for college football. It's fun.
Action on
It's
the
a
hardwood.
exactly Maction on the hardwood. I love it. And what also I love, Melissa, my favorite segment of the week, the Audie Crook stat line of the week, which we're still hoping to get a drop for very, very soon. And I will go ahead and start off with this one. I'm going to look at Tamaya Lewis Etsu from Marshall and a 3-point loss to Troy, senior transfer from VCU. 33 points on 12 of 24 shooting. So a very, very, very high volume performance, those 24 shots. 7 rebounds, 10 assists, 1 turnover, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Just shout out to Lewis Etsu, Utsi. I'm struggling with this one too. Eutsey. Very, very tough. I believe it's Utsi. But yeah, shout out to her, the senior coming over. We'll see what the future holds for her. She's at Marshall after playing 2.5 years at VCU, but just a fantastic performance from her. She gets my Audie Crook stat line of the week. Who has yours?
Well, listen, it pays to be a friend of the show. As we've said, we saw Gianna Kneepkens have a great showing, but man, last week's guest, Shay Chesky, and spoiler alert, next week's guest, Grace Sullivan, went toe to toe Sunday afternoon as Indiana and Northwestern played just a super entertaining, super fun basketball game. Indiana comes away with the win 89-75, but Grace almost single-handedly brought the Wildcats back into this one. Just she's an unbelievable person. Loved our conversation with her and a heck of a player. Somebody who is really starting to claw her way up those WNBA draft projections as well, and that we could see playing in that league soon. Plays all 40 minutes this afternoon, goes for 35 points and 7 rebounds. And Shay was not to be denied either. She just goes ahead and puts up a very casual 33 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists in 34 minutes of play. Both of those players, just so fun to watch each of them kind of, even though they're obviously different positions, but go toe to toe and bucket for bucket in that game for a really entertaining game. I mean, I feel like Grace Sullivan is trying to just drag these Wildcats to relevance with her performance night in and night out. And Indiana's obviously had their struggles too, but certainly not because of the play of Shay Chesky. So they get my Audie Crook stat line of the week for their head-to-head matchup on Sunday afternoon. Just two great, awesome human beings and really, really talented basketball players that make every game that they play worth watching.
Absolutely. What Grace is doing up there is just fantastic to see. Our conversation with her is great. If you have not watched her, you will absolutely love it. Her mid-range jumper is a thing to just behold. The way that she releases it, we talked to her about that, everything coming over from Princeton to Northwestern. Just a wonderful person. And yeah, her and Shay both deserve the Audie Crook stat line of the week that they got. And Melissa, you talked about her climbing up the big board a little bit. Do you want to take a look at our updated big board that's going to be dropping this week on winsidr.com and some of the changes that we've had over the past few weeks? And you kind of teased it at the beginning of the program here. You've been thinking, am I going to have AZ Fudd number one? Am I going to keep Awa Fam there? Is it going to be Awa? Is it going to be AZ? So I need to know, Melissa, who's number one on your big board?
I am making the change right now in this moment. I am highlighting and deleting and copy pasting AZ Fudd. Welcome to number one. Welcome back to number one on my big board. I think it's such a toss up. I think both of them are great players. And I think the Wings with so many questions of what they need and what their roster construction is going to look like, they have needs for both players. I love the fit of AZ Fudd, both offensively and defensively, with the players we know they're going to keep. Now, the Enrique Gumboale question will loom very, very large, but if we look at the best available player, the most dynamic player on the board right now, AZ Fudd, it gets the nod. It's close, but she gets the nod for me.
I think that's very, very fair. I have AZ third overall, which maybe it's just me being stubborn and not moving Olivia Miles out of the number two
Which I
spot.
don't mind personally.
Yeah,
I love it.
to me, it's floor versus upside there, and like AZ Fudd, I think has the most upside in this draft. Maybe Awa Fam, those two are probably tied, but it's the it's the injuries concerns that I
Yeah.
have with her. That's the only
Fair.
reason. Not
Yeah.
fair to her, but because she's a generational talent. So, but that top three is where we have the same top three, just in a different order. Lauren Betts stays the same at number four from you, where she was before. I moved Lauren down to five and actually moved Tanaya Lotson up to number four and Gianna Kneepkens down to number six from number five. A lot of the same there as we go, but one player I noticed you have higher than I do is Flau'jae Johnson. You have Flau'jae at five, I have Flau'jae at nine.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one where we had like the biggest gap between. I just think her skill set's going to translate so well at the next level, and I think when you look at the personality that she has to go with the skill set that she has, she's the type of player that you can build not just your team around, but like the entirety of the marketing of your team as well. And that shouldn't be a reason that you draft a player. But when your player happens to be super, super talented as well, I think that kind of can wait. Now, again, this becomes interesting because who has the number five pick?
Right.
The
We don't know.
Chicago,
Oh yeah. Oh
the
yeah, we do.
Chicago
Sorry. That's right.
Sky.
Yes.
We do know,
Yes.
and maybe there's some challenges personality wise there, but I think at the end of the day, these are professionals, and Chicago is. I mean, we haven't even touched on what's going on in Chicago, and that's not for our show, but
Nope.
they are going to need some good vibes, and Flau'jae brings really, really good vibes as well as a skill set that I think really fills a lot of needs for them. I mean, I think she's the perfect fit in what they want to do. So she moves up. Again, this is all very much in flux, but I went ahead and moved her a little bit up. Now I want to talk about that player that you mentioned that moved up, Tanaya Lotson. It's really hard to argue that she's not a top five pick in this draft, but I have her just outside of my top five. What makes you think that why is she a riser on your board?
It's just the team, like, and it's important to say for this board too, it's not based off teams because it's too hard to mock right now for actual people. So I would not have Lauren Betts going fit to Chicago whenever they're being
Sure.
introduced and Camilla there.
Yeah.
It's just low overall top players. So Tanaya, for me, it's just that prioritization of the person who's able to break down a defense, somebody who's able to be a bucket, as we saw last year at Florida State leading scorer. It's taken her a while to get acclimated to everything in South Carolina, but when you're playing for Don Staley, you're playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not for the name on the back of it. And Tanaya had a little bit of injury there, but I think the scouts really, really just like her game, her ability to go into the paint, play hard, to be able to play that perimeter defense, chase down. Decision making needs a little bit of work still, but she's somebody I think whenever you look at her and they're just like, we need a game changer. Who can we get here? I think they're going to say Tanaya Watson is that player. So that's why I moved her up a little bit ahead of Lauren Betts. We've talked ad nauseum about our concerns around Lauren. If we were mocking this, actually, I would take Lauren still with Washington, but just based on my overall player evaluation, that is why I have Tanaya kind of going up there a little bit. And it's been very, very tough, but she's somebody I think is really going to separate herself. And we always see a riser during March Madness, right? We saw Haley
Sure.
Van Lith last year. I think we're going to be reminded just who Tanaya Watson is come March. And people are going to be like, okay, yep, I get it. I get it. I really want us to take her. And Melissa, I know coming up here in a few minutes, we have our interview with Gianna Kneepkens, but we have a lot of UCLA on our board. We have
Yeah.
Lauren Betts, number 4 overall. I'm looking at your side here. Lauren Betts, 4th. Gianna, 7th. Kiki, 8th. Gabby Jaquez, number 10. And then you go down and you can also find, I guess you don't have her in your top 25. No, you do
No,
not.
I
Charlize
do
Slager
not.
Walker, I have her 21st overall. What was the thought process not having her on there? Was it just too many good players that you needed to include and she got pushed down?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. And again, watching her today, I was like, maybe I made a mistake here. Maybe she belongs because she was such a complete player. But to me, this was more about I felt compelled to get Rory Harmon and Dariana Little Page Bugs into the top 25. I think both those players were just outside of that for me. I mean, we just mocked the first round really last time, but Rory Harmon, I know her size and her injury history is going to turn a lot of teams off. But I just think she's too dang talented and too special of a point guard to not be in that top 25 on the big board. I do think she's very clearly one of the 25 best draft eligible players available right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all fair points. We've seen Roy Harmon just kind of be the heart and soul of this Texas Longhorns team. We've heard Vic Schaefer, Jordan Lee, friend of the program, when she was on here, talk about the future that Rory has in coaching at Texas when she wants to be done playing. And she's a player I didn't have in my top 25. And it was a really, really tough decision because I love her game. She's one of my favorite players to watch. I just worry about the size.
Yeah.
That's the thing it is for me. But we've seen players at a small stature be able to make it. And do I think that Rory Harmon deserves to be a second round pick? I absolutely do. A team should take her. I just had 25 players I felt more comfortable and confident in than Rory Harmon to have there. If you're asking me if I'm going to build a locker room and I want a leader out of all of here and somebody who can play backup point guard for me, then yeah, she's going to be a top 10 player for me because I just think her leadership, her ability just to kind of be what that team needs and what teams look for in that is just almost unmatched. I just worry about the size, and I think more
Yeah.
and more teams are about that. I really hope I'm wrong. I hope that she goes higher than 23rd, where you have her. And Melissa, somebody who's higher than we both had last time was because I don't even think she made our top 15, to be honest with you, is Raven Johnson out of South Carolina. For a long time, I have been, I don't want to say critical, but in Caitlin Clark's senior year, everyone was like, oh, she's locking down Caitlin Clark. Like she's going to be that lockdown defender that we see. It's a lot of like the Nika Mule conversation that we saw with Connecticut with UConn. But I'm like, okay, like I get it. She's a very good perimeter defender. I'm glad she came back to school another year because her offense has not developed at all. Guess what? That offense is coming
Yeah.
along now, and she's still a tenacious defender. So neither one of us knew where the other people were putting players on our big board. We both happen to have Raven Johnson now inside of our first round at 14th overall. What is it about Raven that's really made the decision to bring her up for you easier?
I mean, you hope that this isn't like a contract year bump like we see in professional sports, right? But I mean, she's almost doubled her points per game. She's still rebounding at the same clip. She's doubled her steals per game. She is shooting a significantly higher field goal percentage. She's shooting significantly better from 3 point. She's getting to the free throw line and she is making free throws. So, I mean, right now, just her complete game and being able to be that perimeter defender, I think is what makes her so special. And just like in any basketball league, if you could be a 3-and-D, right now it's looking like she can be a 3-and-D and then has some other ability. There's going to be a place for her on a roster. And I think right now I don't think she's going to fall very far out of the first round because I think that, if we do get this supposed combine, I think she's going to test really well because she's such an exceptional athlete. And I think that she's going to conduct herself really well in interviews. I think she's a really good player on a really good team that Dawn Staley has imbued with a lot of quality basketball advice and IQ and skills. And so like Why would you not want a player like that at the top of the second round?
Yeah, it's totally fair. And her win shares is 3.6. That's 99th percentile in the league. Her defensive rating is on par with where it was 2 years ago when she was locking up Caitlin Clark. But it's her offensive rating that's climbed to 129.9, which is 99 percentile in all of Division One, which it's just been a fantastic season. She's been very efficient. She's taken that lead that we want to see. We talked about with Tanaya Latson there. There's so many cooks in that kitchen that not every single day can you a game can you see the same person just kind
Yeah.
of stand out. You're going to have to get yours. But Raven's been able to separate herself so many times that Dawn is trusting her down the stretch, whether it's just that final possession against Texas, be like, hey, I want you to be out there to guard it. Hey, on the inbound pass, I want you to get the ball. I want the pressure on your shoulders at the charity stripe. So yeah, it's been really, really nice to see her climb up the ladder a little bit. And I can't wait to see where she lands because I do think if she does have that combine that you're talking about, we might see a top 10 grade star coming in because people love talking about those combines. We
Hmm.
see it across the board, every single sport. I don't think this one is going to be any different. Melissa, there's somebody that is on our board I mentioned earlier. Sixth for me, seventh for you. Gianna Kneepkens. Is there anybody else that we want to talk about before we throw it over to Gianna for our favorite Hoopers favorite Hooper segment?
I mean, look, there's a lot of players that we can talk about, but we'll have an opportunity to keep bringing them up throughout the season. I'll say again, from my selfish perspective, I was really happy to see Marta Suarez look like Marta Suarez today. I think that she was a fast riser that looked like she was going to creep into potentially the first round, and then she struggled for the last 3 weeks or so. So she had a great game against Texas Tech. I still think her skill set is one that gets her name called in the first 2 rounds for sure. But good to see her playing well. And our other friend of the program, we both had Maggie Dugan in our top 20 on the big board, and rightfully so. So all that to say, talking and coming on, the next woman up rises your draft stock. That's what we know. That's what we know. So, and also having a rising draft stock is our friend Gianna Kneepkens, who is this week's next woman up.
And joining the next woman up is a senior guard who is a walking bucket and automatic from behind the arc. One of the big five at UCLA. Welcome Gianna Kneepkens to the show. Gianna, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll just get right into it here. For your final year of eligibility, you left Utah for UCLA. The convo is always about how UCLA has five potential first round picks in the upcoming draft. How hard was it for you to weigh going to a historic program like UCLA versus not being the number one option on offense anymore?
Yeah, I think going into the portal, I there were some things in mind I wanted. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to take that next step in my career. And I felt like going to a place that I would be able to compete against girls every single day. I would have coaches behind me just challenging me. Was a great step for me. So it wasn't, I feel like I'm able to grow my game in a different way being at UCLA, and it's been a great fit so far.
We've talked to a lot of players who have made the decision to transfer at some point in their career. And one of the things that always stands out to me is how these players and these coaches and these programs get these athletes to buy into the name on the front of the jersey as opposed to the back. How important has that been at UCLA this year with such star power on that roster?
Yeah, I mean, it's been huge, but I also don't think it's been much of a problem. I think we all want to win a national championship at the end of the day. Like, that's the goal. And we know we have a lot of strength, but we know that there's way more strength in the combined of our skill sets. So I think we've been having a lot of fun, and we don't really struggle with like people trying to be like, oh, I need to get mine. Like, we just recognize what the next right play is and figuring out ways to play super well together. So it's been super fun to, everyone has their own strength, which I think makes us really hard to guard, because you try to take away something, but then there's something else. So, yeah, it's been fun, and that's definitely super important is representing UCLA and playing for UCLA, not yourself.
And let's speak about playing for UCLA a little bit. And what are the major differences that you've seen so far playing for UCLA versus your time at Utah?
Yeah, I mean, I think every program in the country, like no matter where you go, there's differences. But just I wanted, like I've kind of mentioned before, just wanted to be like super challenged, go against other girls that want to play pro afterwards. So that's been super fun. And like just the way the style of coaching is always different, program to program because no leader is the same. So just that. But Coach Corey knew I wanted to be challenged coming in. So she's been challenging me, doing everything I need to be a better basketball player. Yeah, so I've just been focusing on that and just being a great teammate and finding ways to help my team win.
One of the other things that's been different, and as someone who grew up in California and a big fan of Pac-12 women's basketball, the travel, right? You remember the Pac-12 at Utah, then you remember the Big 12 at Utah, and now you remember the Big 10. There's been a lot of talk here in the last couple of days from some of the men's basketball coaches about how challenging this travel is. What has it been like for you to be at UCLA in Southern California and to I think you guys play in like 4 different time zones over the course of the season. How does that kind of wear on you? And what's the fun part of getting to see so many different places?
Yeah, I think I actually really enjoy traveling. So it's hard when it is like a 3 hour time difference just because that's a lot. That's a lot. You're waking up at 6 a.m. instead of whatever. So that's been hard. But I think UCLA does a great job of we travel super well. We have like we'll also say it a little spoiled. So we're very grateful for all that we have, but we have great nutritionists and people on staff that are keeping us like ready to go. But I also think kind of what you mentioned is with like how far we go and all the different teams we play, there's just different styles. So it's so fun to play against the different teams that, maybe they're a little more physical than other teams or whatever it may be. But so I think that's been really fun is just getting to experience playing all those different styles.
I'm curious too, what have you seen kind of the difference in each of those 3 leagues? Because I do think it is 3 very unique styles of basketball in each one.
Yeah, I think I think the Pac-12 was kind of known for like very high IQ, like pretty basketball, people would say. I feel like those aren't really my words. I think it was high IQ basketball. Big 12, I think there's so many teams, there's a little mix of that, but also a lot of physical teams. And then the Big 10, I would say was pretty similar to the Big 12, just pretty physical, big, high IQ, big girls, like just very solid and a lot of fundamental teams too. So there's just with I think 18 teams in the conference, you see it all. So it's been fun for sure.
And something also fun is your game. I'm a big fan of it. Melissa and I put together our first big board mock draft. Really hard whenever there's no CBA, knowing who's on what team and all that. But anyway, I had you fifth overall. Basically highlighted by your ability behind the arc. It seemed like there was a little bit of a slow start this year from three, but you found your groove a couple weeks into the season. Was there a specific adjustment that you made, or was it just kind of shoot or shoot and just trust your shot?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of adjusting to being in a new system, just kind of seeing that change. But yeah, just I trust my work and my preparation, so I didn't stress out too much when shots weren't going in the beginning of the season. And again, we have so many great people on the team that if it's not someone's night, not my night, like I know someone else is going to be their night. So.
I loved a story that I read about how your shot became so effective because your driveway was on a hill with the basketball rim, and you learned if it went through, you didn't have to chase the ball. That's a pretty good carrot to dangle in front of a young shooter learning. We know what a great shooter you are, about the repeatability of your mechanics and just how pretty that look is. But you're also able to finish in traffic, to put the ball on the floor, to keep your eyes up on the fast break and find a teammate in transition, and then also to interrupt the passing lanes. And I think these are skills of yours that often get overlooked. What's an aspect of your game that you're most proud of your growth in from your freshman year until now?
Yeah, I think one of them that I've really liked maybe more this year is just trying like new playmaking things, whether that's finding teammates or getting in gaps. I've really liked that. But also just playing super hard. I think I always want to take pride in that. Just being someone that's going to dive on floors, like get extra possessions for the team because when it gets to close games, those possessions matter. So I'd say those are two things that are important to me.
Yeah, we were just speaking to Nyla Harris from UNC earlier last episode, and she was talking about those little intangibles that don't show up in the box score. So, 100%, you see those kind of those things show up, and I'm sure that's something that Coach Lawson stressed too with USA basketball. So, if we can pivot over there a little bit, how valuable was that experience for you as a person, as a player, for your time in Chile?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, it was so much fun. I think it was super cool because great players from all over the country that you compete against all the time, and you get to be their teammates for a couple of weeks, so that's fun. But I also think where its growth is, you have to learn a system, a defensive system and an offensive system really quickly. I think there was like we had maybe 6 practices as a team, the team that was selected. So just figuring that out was definitely a challenge, but it was super fun and it's like it's special because everyone's so bought into winning for Team USA and everyone takes a little bit of pride in that. So it was a great experience and I really enjoyed my time.
And I always have to ask any of the Team USA players that we speak to, I need to know where you put your medal. Do you have that on display? It's kind of like a flex when people come over and visit, like, oh, it's just my medal, no big deal.
Uh, it's in my house. We got it like framed and stuff, like my jersey framed. So it's in my house back in Minnesota. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Was there anything you picked up from a player or something that maybe another guard showed you during that camp that you've kind of added to your game?
Um, I think there was like obviously a lot of very skilled guards like Hannah Hidalgo's speed and Olivia Miles' IQ and Michaela Blakes can score the ball. I mean, I could go on and on. So just being able to be in their presence and watch them and just appreciate their game as a teammate was cool. So.
Well, there's a lot to appreciate about your game, including just how close you came last year to that 180-degree shooter mark of the 50, 40, 90 club. I think you were 1% off. I could see like your face like tighten up probably just thinking about it, right? So I'm going to ask you this question, but I think you know the answer. Was that something you were aware of throughout the season? Was that a goal that you had set for yourself?
Um, I was aware of it because people would ask me about it. And it was a goal just in the fact that I wanted to be efficient for my team, not because I could be like, hey, I'm 50, 49. It was more just like, I feel like I want to do that because I feel like I'm being great for my team, finishing for my team. So kind of that mindset rather than just like, oh, I get to say I'm 50, 40, 90. So,
The humility, always the humility, right?
And we know that the W is the plan for you. We know that you're going to be a high draft pick. We've heard in interviews how hard that you've worked to get to this point, but when did you realize that going pro was a reality for you?
I think I really wanted it. I started talking to it with my coach after my freshman season, being like, I think this is a possibility. Like, I want to work towards that. Can you help me get there? So, you know, I think as a kid I wanted to do it, but it's hard, I feel like, to imagine that as a kid when you're not sure like how your college career is gonna go. So just always been working towards that since college, I'd say.
Whenever you were playing as a kid and like dreaming of that, was there somebody like I used to, whenever I was shooting my hoop in the backyard, I'd always picture I was Allen Iverson at the end of the game hitting the game winning shot. Whenever you were out playing, was there anybody who like you were pretending that you were on the court that you grew up watching?
Yeah, I think growing up watching Minnesota, the Lynx were really good. So I just remember like Maya Moore being a huge person. I was like, oh, she's really good at basketball. Like I hope. Obviously, we don't play alike at all, but just being able to watch. There's been so many people before me that I've been like just been able to look at and model a little bit of my game after. I think what's really cool is when I was younger, it was honestly hard to watch the WNBA. And just in these past few years, like being that access is so much better. So it makes it a lot easier to follow along and watch women's basketball, and I'm just in such a great place.
Mine when I was a kid was Charles Barkley because it took me a long time to develop the shot. Like I was a late bloomer in the sport of basketball, and I'm still waiting to bloom, but it's fine.
I'm
Uh,
sure.
yeah, your story is really incredible. I was reading about when you first started to kind of fall in love with the game and how to play at high school. You literally had to like pull kids off the street and recruit them to play from your school, to convince kids from outside of your school to come and play. And now you're kind of sitting here looking at the very realistic potential of being a first round pick in the WNBA. And as a coach with a bunch of kids who've never played basketball, I love the patience and the love of the game and how you kind of pulled those kids in and built that passion for your teammates too, even as maybe you are a little more advanced than them at that stage in your life. But you're continuing to advance now. And what I want to ask is there something that you're kind of looking at as this is a skill I want to continue to develop, or this is an area I know that WNBA scouts are going to want to see me be better in before you get to the league?
Yeah, I think as a basketball player, you know your game is never complete. Like there's always more to what you have. So I think just continue to be aggressive and getting downhill, finishing through contact is something I'll always want to improve on. I also think just defensively, being able to get through screens, navigating those. But yeah, just I think just real when you're able to recognize that there's more to learn and grow in basketball, I think that's when it gets really fun. You can challenge yourself like in practice, and I'm like, this is what I want to focus on, this is what I want to get better on, so that hopefully if I am able to play in the WNBA, then those skills are just habits and second nature. So yeah.
You kind of touched on that, and I like your IQ and you love the like the science of the game, right? And figuring things out. How do you think that has kind of helped you when whether it's in Chile talking about picking up a system or transferring from Utah to UCLA to be so adaptable? And why do you think that's a strength that's going to carry you forward too?
Yeah, I think my IQ has helped me just in slowing the game down. I feel like I kind of try to make it not ever feel rushed, like just being able to play at my speed at all times. So I think that's kind of where it plays in because I'm just like, I know where I want to get, how I want to get there. So I think that's honestly where it's been the most transferable in my IQ.
And one of your former teammates at Utah, Alyssa Peely, was a first round pick a couple of years ago. Is she somebody that you keep in contact with? And if so, is she giving you any advice as you kind of approach this next phase of your career?
Yeah, we check in with each other here and there. I love Alyssa. She was great to play with, just fun to be around. So we definitely keep in touch and she's killing it. We'll go back and forth a little bit about basketball, but she's pretty busy. But she's in Australia right now, killing it. So it's just cool to have someone like her that I can reach out to that has that experience. So she's awesome.
You know, we've heard a lot this season about South Carolina and UConn and Texas, and UCLA came in with so much potential and so much promise in those five potential first round picks. But you guys have just been kind of quietly going about your business, it seems, and maybe don't get as much attention when it comes to being national championship contenders. What do you think it will take for the Bruins to be the team that's standing alone at the top at the end of this season?
Yeah, I think if we stick to our process and doing the things we know we're great at and improving on things that we know like we aren't where it needs to be, I think we have a really good chance. Like I mentioned earlier, I feel like we're kind of a team. I'm a little biased, but like you kind of have to pick your poison because if you take away one thing, there's four other options in my opinion. So I
I think
think
it's a fact. I think that's a fact.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
so yeah, I just think that if we stick to it, we do the hard things, and just stay consistent with that, I think things will go the way they're supposed to.
Look, I mean, I know what you have to say, but do you guys kind of wear that little with a little chip on your shoulder that you aren't one of those teams that's maybe getting talked about as I mean, I think a Final Four, yeah, absolutely, but a team that can actually win it all?
Yeah, I think Coach Corey really emphasized just like staying like very present, don't focus on anything but getting better today in practice. So I think you want to play with a little bit of edge, but we try to like not focus on outside noise too much. Just know what we need to do to be the best versions of ourselves.
That was good. That was a good like medium media train, but also obviously you guys deserve a lot more respect than you're getting. I like that. Well handled. You're professional.
Appreciate it.
All right. How do we feel about moving into the rapid fire round, Gianna? Are you ready for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the Gianna learning to dance is one of my favorite things on the internet. I was showing my partner it downstairs before this interview, and we had a great time. We were on day six. That's the last one that we saw. So just to kind of put that right here, I want to know, Gianna, how would you rate your dancing skills right now, and how would Charlize rate them?
Well, Charlize is really nice to me, so she would probably give me like a 6 or 7. But for me, like I'm like a 3. Like I still don't have a lot of rhythm, but hey, at least I recognize it.
We saw how far Marina Mabrey's come, right? Anything is
Yeah,
possible if
Yes,
you
and,
believe in
yeah.
yourself.
And
So
if I practice, which I'm practicing,
yeah,
so
you use that IQ can translate to a lot of different skills in life, right?
it is
hopefully.
fantastic. So much.
Listen, you're a Minnesota native. You spent a good part of time in Utah. Now you're living in sunny Southern California, and the West Woodwood is not a real place. How do you feel? And again, remember, I am from California, so this is going to be I'm going to judge you very harshly based on how you answer this question. How does California feel compared to the other places that you lived, and why is it the most elite place to spend your college time?
Yeah, well, it's very different from the places I've lived. But I have loved it, absolutely loved it. Just the waking up every day knowing it's gonna be 70 degrees. You don't even have to check the weather. It's incredible. There's so much to do. You can go to the beach, you can stay inside if you want, you can go shopping. There's so much to do. So just being able to explore this for my last year has definitely been fantastic. And it's even more nice when we go to the Midwest and it's like -10. I'm like, I lived here. Like,
How? I like it's about to be, we're about to have like ice spaghetti here in Texas where I live now. And I'm like, I'm not built for this. I am a Northern Californian, which we do get winter, but nothing like what I'm used to having to experience now. And also the produce. The freshness of the produce is the
uh,
most underrated aspect of California. People don't understand how much is actually grown in that state.
yeah, the fruit is
Oh,
actually way better. Yeah.
sweet.
Yes.
So sweet.
Yeah, I got older and I made the decision to leave Pennsylvania and move down to Georgia because I was done dealing with the snow as well. And whenever I was down here, I was at a game, the Aces versus the Dream, and forever Asia Wilson said that her goal was to block Alicia Gray during a game in the WNBA because they were teammates in South Carolina. She finally did it during that game in 2024 in Atlanta. So my question for you is, if you had to hit the dagger, a dagger in the face of Lauren, Charlize, Kiki, or Gabby at the next level, who is it?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I'll say, ooh, I'll say Kiki, because why not? Kiki's my
Okay.
dog. I love Kiki and love playing with her, so that would be fun to do.
All right, we're gonna clip this and side by side it when you hit that dagger in or
Yeah.
sometime in the near future, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get things off the court a little bit to finish up. I did Michael dropped this question in. I did my research. We got to talk. What were your thoughts on the Stranger Things? Not just the finale, but the final season and the episode that was promised and never was.
Yeah, a little bummed about the fake episode. But you know, I thought honestly in the last season, episode 4, when can I do a
Yeah,
spoiler?
well, spoiler alert. Let's
Absolutely.
spoiler alert
Yeah.
for this section.
Will got his powers, like that was like probably
Yeah.
the best scene ever. And then I thought the finale was fine. I do think there could have been a little bit more, but like I'm not a hater. I thought it was good, but I do think episode 4 was better than the finale.
So, and again, spoiler alert, do you buy the conspiracy theory that 11 is alive?
I want to, but I don't. There's no way. I don't
Yeah,
think so.
I'm with you. I'm with you. It would be, it's cute and nice and fun, but it's
Yeah,
probably not what really happened.
yeah, sadly, unfortunately.
Melissa spoke earlier and said that you're a super high IQ basketball player. So I want you to use your basketball IQ for this question.
Okay.
Do you think that Vecna would be able to stop Lauren in the post?
Absolutely not. I don't think
Oh,
anyone can guard her.
Beck doesn't have the speed. He doesn't have the land
No,
speed, right? No chance.
yeah, I don't think anyone can guard
That
her.
reach, that standing reach is pretty good for him, though. You know, it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I guess.
Keeping things off the court, but away from Stranger Things. You care a lot about the youth of the next generation. How important is it for you to give back to your community with running your kids' camps?
Yeah, I think giving back is super important. I think as a kid, if you have someone to look up, I mean, I came from a smaller town, so having someone to look up to, is super important. So I hope and do what I can, to be that for someone, even if it's just one person. So just being, doing that in the basketball way, but also as a person, I want to be someone that kids look up to, and they can see me as a good person. So.
Do you think coaching is in your future? If you give the vibe of someone who I could definitely see coaching when your playing career is over.
Yeah, I think maybe eventually. But I don't know for sure. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll
You
see.
got a lot of time to figure that out. You got a lot of basketball left to play.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully.
You talked about growing up and loving to watch Maya Moore, but that you're very different players. So who would you say is your WNBA comparison?
Hmm. That's a tough question. I don't know if there's one person that I play exactly like. So I don't really know, but I do think like watching a lot of basketball and trying to implement different parts of people's game is always important. Like you want to shoot like someone or have the handles like someone, is super important. But I don't know if who exactly would be my comparison.
Here's a
Gianna,
question.
one of one.
One
Yes.
of one. There you go. Here's a question I think you're going to be able to answer definitively there. I saw that you're very particular about your chocolate chip cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not baking them yourself, but you have a very specific thing that you're looking for. What is the perfect chocolate chip cookie, and do you have a go-to spot?
That is a fantastic question. How in particular is it has to be like doughy in the middle, like maybe even a little undercooked.
Oh, for
And
sure.
then the edge is a little more like golden, crispy, not hard. So like that is the perfect balance. Fresh out of the oven, nice and warm is the perfect.
A little sea salt on top. Are you sea salt on top? A little
Yes,
salty
yes,
sweet?
yes, yes, yes. And then one spot here that I've tried that's really good, is Beverly Hills cookies. They're
Okay.
really good cookies. Yeah.
The bougie Beverly Hills cookies is the place to go,
They
right?
are a
They're
little expensive, but they
and
taste
yeah,
good.
they've got to be like $7 a piece, right? At
I
Beverly
think it's
Hills.
like six, but
Okay, that's
yeah.
about right.
Yeah.
Well, we have a few more here for you, and then we'll wrap up. And I think I'm going to run to the store and get some chocolate chip cookies. But
Yeah.
before we do that, I know that you were your high school's class president. What
Mhm.
slogan did you run on?
They didn't do that. They didn't have like slogans. We just had to like write a speech and then you would get voted on. But yeah, I didn't have to have that.
Well, if you did, going back, if they said you had to run on a slogan, what would your slogan be now that you would run on?
Um, oh shoot. That is a tough question. I'm not the most creative person. It'd probably be like, vote for me if yeah, it'd probably just be vote for me.
Love it. Simple, simple.
Hey, it's direct and
Right
to
to
the
the
point.
point. Yep,
Yes.
exactly.
Well, I think you grew up with five brothers. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
That is wild. Which one of them gave you the biggest challenge on the basketball court?
Ooh. Well, I always have to say nowadays, like none of them can really hang. But I would say my youngest brother, he was probably the most like athletic, and like probably the most skilled and probably put in the most time. So he probably did, but I had to beat them up growing up.
None of them are beating you in a game of horse, though, right?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay, that's what I thought.
All right, John, we're going to get you out of here on this. I have a little game to kind of finish us up here. I'm going to list the amount of points per game senior season of high school, and you didn't match them to the player. The players are yourself, Gabby, Lauren, and Kiki.
Okay.
So we have 43.1. I'm going to put them in the chat too to make it a little easier for you here because I'm going to be reading off some numbers. 43.1 points per game, 34.2 points per game, 17.2 points per game, and 15.8 points per game.
Okay. Well, Gabs, she told me about we were talking about this the other day and she brought up that she had 34.2, so I think that's Gabs. Um, I had 43.1.
Do you almost say that like you're embarrassed that you dropped 43 points a game as a senior in high school? My team doesn't score 43
A
points a
state
game,
record,
Gianna.
a
Come
state
on.
record, mind you. Yes.
Um, ooh, and then Kiki or Lauren. Oh, I'd say I know Kiki's team was loaded, so I wonder if she like it was a little more spread out and she had 15.8 and then Lauren had 17.2.
Your basketball IQ isn't the only high IQ you had because you nailed it 4 for 4. That was
Woo!
perfect.
Let's go.
That was wonderful. I thought I might be able to challenge you on that, but there was no challenge at all. Just like we're seeing on the court your senior year. It's been a pleasure to watch you, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me again. It was fun.
All right, and we are back here. What a great conversation. Took her a little get out of her shell a little bit, but that was wonderful. Just hearing the differences of Minnesota and Utah, now California, what she's looking for in a cookie, how she grew up playing basketball in her backyard in her driveway. And the question that I really like to hear her answer to is just who she wants to hit that dagger in front of
Yeah.
whenever she gets pro. Like, is it going to be Kiki? Is it going to be Charlize? Is it going to be Kiki? I already said Kiki. Is it going to be Gabby or is it going to be Lauren? And I that was a lot of fun. Came away. I already respected her game, and I really like her as a person now too. She has a new fan in me.
Yeah, for sure. Great fan. She's got a great story. I definitely recommend if go read up on her. There's been a couple of nice profiles done, but just a really cool kid who's got a really bright future in the league for sure.
Yeah, she is just a fantastic shooter, fantastic playmaker. I really hope you mentioned earlier, hopefully getting that 180 overall shooting. She was so close last year. I think what was it,
Yeah,
89.8%
one.
something from the free
Yeah,
throw line.
yeah.
So hopefully she can get that this year and she can just kind of complete that as she gets ready to be a surefire first round pick in a hopeful upcoming WNBA draft. Melissa, we are going to do a little on the fly segment today, and I aptly name it Spilling Tea with Coach T. So, what that is earlier today, you texted me and said, hey, I want to talk about the Illinois situation going on. And I said, you know what? We have a podcast, we have a platform, and damn it, Melissa, go
Let's do it.
ahead and say what is on your mind.
Look, Corey Close has been in the news for all of the right and wrong reasons. I feel like this season she is not afraid to give us a quote. Right? Obviously, she talked about being upset with the Ohio State game about not having what she thought was an appropriate amount of media coverage, and we talked through that and where she was right and maybe where she wasn't quite seeing the whole big picture about it. But now she goes to Illinois and they win that game, and she talks about Illinois' young core and what a great program that they're building and how special of a place it is and how she really believes in the system and how she hopes that those core young players stay at Illinois and invest there. And saying that while much of your core, including our guest, were taken out of the transfer portal, like kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like I 100%, the sentiment is correct. I think that too often we're seeing so many athletes, and I would say more so on the men's side than the women's side, who are bouncing from school to school to school because they're not getting what they thought they were going to get. They're not playing as much as they thought. They're not getting to be the star. I think more often than not, with on the women's side, we see players play for 2 or 3, 4 years and then leave. Like Gianna Kneepkens is a great example. Played at Utah in a program that was not one of the top programs, was not competing for national championships, plays great, earns an opportunity to go be a part of a national championship team. That makes total sense to me. I'd like to see more players stay and develop. I think that it's hard to develop when you're going year to year, but by the same token, I don't think that as a coach, you should be going and telling players to stay when you're if any one of those kids went to the portal, she'd be the first to call them, I'm sure, if she really thinks that they're that good. And B, like coaches can move all of the time. There's a lot of situations, a lot of reasons that players move. And so the sentiment is correct. Maybe it's not her voice that should be giving air to it, would be, I guess, my TLDR.
Yeah, I think it's very fair. Like you said, they have their big five there in UCLA. 3 out of 5 of them are transfers who have played elsewhere before with Gianna, Lauren, and Charlize, Legger Walker. So it is, yeah, I definitely understand it. And it is fun to see those programs. We talked earlier about Michigan's young core that they
Yeah.
have, that young sophomore. It'd be great to see Illinois teams stay together. Stanford is building something special too. And it's awesome to say it, but that may have been a off the record comment or something that you
Yeah.
tell coach
Yeah.
to her face instead of saying it out loud, because if not, you leave yourself open to the criticism here. And it's not really like, what we like Corey Close, we like UCLA. We're happy Gianna was on the program. We want more players on the program from
Yeah.
there and other schools too. But it's also just like reading the room, reading the situation, understanding like it would be like Mark Campbell going to the same schools, going to
Yeah. Going to Texas
to
Tech and
Stanford, going to
saying,
Texas
yeah.
Tech. It's just like this is awesome. I love seeing this young core you built. I definitely understand that. Like keep it going. And it's like
Yeah.
you've talked highly about like how you use the portal, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's totally fine. but you also just need to kind of read the room a little bit on it.
Yeah, like you could I think that we're going to see more of this in the women's game too. We talked about it with, Montana State. Like
Mhm.
when a player plays really well at a mid-major or a non-traditional power, the first thing we think of, oh, where's she going to go to next? Is she going to get a
Mhm.
chance at a big name program? And I do hate that that's the culture that's kind of evolved around college athletics these days. But at the same token, it's not for us to tell a kid what they should do. Right. Like
Right.
that's a conversation for her and her family and hopefully not just her agents because I know they do a lot of negative stuff in this too, but those are the conversations for the people that know you best are close to and the coaching staff to have those real conversations of is this the right fit for you? Why is it worth you investing here? And how can I get you to reach whatever your goals are? I mean, Gianna's goal to get to the WNBA, she's got a better shot of doing that at UCLA than she did at Utah. She wants to win a
Mhm.
national championship. She's got a better shot of doing that at UCLA than she did Utah. Like that's awesome. I respect that. I can appreciate that. TCU is a great example. Haley Van Lith is not a WNBA player if Mark Campbell does not get her out of what she was dealing with off the court as well as on the court. That was the right thing for her to do. She was a three school player. She went to LSU to try to win a ring
Mhm.
and she went to TCU to get herself right, and so I think that that's what we kind of have to understand. So, yeah, the player movement it can be egregious at times. It can be difficult. I understand coaches' frustration, but you can't sit there from on high and tell us why kids shouldn't do something without knowing the individual situations. And I think, like you said, keep that as a private conversation. Tell those kids, hey, I think you guys can build something special here if you invest, but also, if you get in the portal, I'm going to give you a call. I'm sure that's what would happen.
Yeah, exactly. About 980 players went into the portal last year after more than 1,000 went in the year before, including Haley Van Lith when she went to TCU. We had friend of the program, Mia Jacobs, was at Fresno, and she said, "Hey, I want to go to a P4 school. I want to try to go pro,
Yeah.
whether it be WNBA, WNBL. And the best way to do that is get that exposure." That's what she wanted. Maggie Dugan said, "Hey, I want to stay at Richmond. I'm proud of this program, what I built." Because she went somewhere else. Absolutely, we spoke to her about that. She knew she could have, but she really wanted to stay there. So yeah, that was our inaugural Spilling Tea with Coach T segment. Maybe it'll return again, and we might have something for
Anytime I
Waterloo.
get fired up about something, we'll bring it back, which I'm sure will be quite often. So
We might have to have some kind of blaring alarm or something to
yeah,
signify that it is coming in. But Melissa, while that may be on tap in the future, we're going to look at what's on tap for the upcoming week across women's basketball. So I highlighted a few games. I'd love to know ones that stand out to you. I'm going to start with Maryland at Michigan. We talked about Maryland, the struggles that they've been having, losing 5 out of 6, losing 4 in a row. They have to go to a Michigan team who we both love, who just had that fantastic overtime victory against Michigan State. I want to see if Maryland, what they're going to be able to do as they likely fall out of the top 25. And then Tennessee, a team that has lost 2 in a row. We just saw them lose today to UConn as I had to scratch my brain to remember who that was. And also that performance Thursday against Ole Miss,
yeah,
where Kim Caldwell just said, "I don't recognize this team. I don't know who it is." They need to kind of get right, and they're going to travel to Athens in order to do so. And right after that, they have to go to South Carolina. So things do not get easier for Tennessee. Uh, what's kind of on your mind as you look at the
yeah.
upcoming schedule?
Don't get caught in a trap game, Tennessee. You do not want to lose that game to Georgia. That'd be tough.
Yep.
Vandy, stay in the SEC. Vandy at Kentucky is going to be a ton of fun. Vandy's obviously they lost their undefeated status, but still a team that is in the mix for probably a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed. So they've got a lot to play here for. And then Kentucky, who features another friend of the program that I don't know if we want to name drop quite yet, but
You know, I think if this has been a longer show, if you made it to the end, you deserve an Easter egg and a spoiler. So damn it, go ahead, Melissa.
yeah, we got a chance to talk to Claire Strack. So Claire will be coming on with us here in a couple of weeks. Really great conversation. She's freaking balling out. I can't wait to watch what she does against Vanderbilt. And then your Duke Blue Devils at Louisville. So Louisville quietly just continuing to play really good basketball. That Duke Louisville game is going to have a lot of major implications as we get into the AC and start thinking about the ACC tournament coming forward.
It's going to be a tough game for Duke and number 10 Louisville. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. Two more I'm going to highlight here. And one, you're like, Michael, why are you saying this one? These aren't ranked teams. It's because I'm going to be there and because I'm a co-host of the show. And if I want to drop it in there, I'm going to.
Heck
That's
yeah.
why I did it. And it is Stanford at Georgia Tech. We mentioned Stanford earlier today, just that very young core. Love watching that team. Love watching that program. Excited to go to that game next Sunday. So we will not be recording that day because I guess it's the Super Bowl or something that day, which I
Also that,
totally
yeah.
forgot. So we're
Yeah.
going to be recording the following Monday. So we're going to have even more basketball knowledge to drop on y'all with Megan Hall as well as Grace Sullivan. Very excited for that game to see how they play. And lastly, Thomas Costello, I'm looking at you right here. Ohio State versus Oregon. I know you just covered the team. You're not a fan, but I need something to make this personal. So that's what I'm going to do. It's Ohio State versus Oregon against my Oregon Ducks, who just knocked off Maryland. So I'm really, really looking forward to that game at the most beautiful court in America. Melissa, any other games kind of stand out for you here on the schedule?
Look, I think we've got a couple of good ones. This LSU at Texas, a little bit of a revenge, a payback game opportunity there for the Longhorns who now nobody's talking about them. They were doing great. They were number one. Everybody forgets about how good Texas is. So I think they got to get off the schneid, get back on track. And then, we talked about UCLA and the way they played today. We talked about Michigan, Michigan State. UCLA and Michigan is this week. So that is a huge, huge game and a great opportunity. I have a feeling that is going to be a ton of fun. And that one being in Ann Arbor makes things really interesting.
It does. There is so much good basketball on the way. We are about a month away from Selection Sunday, but the good thing is you're only a week away from another episode of The Next Woman Up, and that's where you're going to find myself, Michael Waterloo, as well as Melissa Treebosser with our special guests, plural, Megan Hall of USA Today to talk about Sweet 16, her big board, and everything else going on in women's basketball, as well as the standout Melissa's Audie Crook co-Statline Player of the Week, Grace Sullivan of Northwestern. Stay tuned for that conversation. We appreciate you all. We'll see you here next Tuesday.
See you next week.